When a certain demographic can't understand something, the conclusions they reach are off the chart. Welcome to World of Batshit. What could be more inane than protesting against something that doesn't happen? Not much. So what happens when you give credulous muppets access to the internet, so-called social networks, and allow them to cross-infect baseless ideas among each other? Proles undertaking a global march against chemtrails. Well, clearly they've gone to a lot of trouble, so let's hear the case.
Scientists and debunkers will tell us lies!
That's some allegation. Can we take it that our homebrew professor of atmospheric dynamics and aeronautics has evidence that conclusively demonstrates her claim that these people are liars?
I don't believe them!
Oh, for fuck's sake. So, her entire basis for her poison the well allegations is just an argument from incredulity and ignorance. Nice going. True to conspiracy nut form, she wants you to
keep an open mind,
even though her mind is so closed to genuine information that she's willing to call people far more informed than her liars. Here's another one. What compelling evidence has he got?
You'll find in movies like Pixar that children's watch Cars and Over the Hedge have 3D modelled contrails in these movies.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
Popular games like Grand Theft Auto and SimCity also have these 3D modelled contrails that seem to fan out into weird-looking clouds in these games and movies.
Yes, he's noticed that computer games model contrails, clear proof that they're part of the conspiracy. It couldn't possibly have anything to do with trying to create a vaguely photorealistic gameplay environment.
What I soon came to realise was that there is a lot of disinformation out there on the internet and in our media.
Using the powers of his own confirmation bias, he's declaring it to be full of disinformation by virtue of having chosen, without evidence, to believe the claims of a bunch of ignorant lunatics rather than to, say, read some books. He doesn't actually want to really educate himself because
there's a lot of websites and probably paid disinformationists who are putting information out there to throw us off the trail.
Of course, that makes perfect sense. Since this hive mind of human incompetence thinks that chemtrails are different to ordinary contrails, let's quickly discuss the latter. When a hydrocarbon fuel like jet fuel is burned in a jet engine, the combustion products are essentially water and carbon dioxide. The waste products of combustion, along with the unused atmospheric gases ingested by the engine, are ejected from the rear at the highest possible speed in order to produce thrust. In turbofan engines, as illustrated here, the gas turbine also drives a fan, which accelerates air past the turbine, producing more thrust. Turbofans are highly efficient and quiet, which makes them ideal for use on passenger aircraft. Modern engines also include lobe mixers, which are designed to mix the hot turbine and cold bypass airflows. This reduces noise and also provide a more uniform energy distribution in the exhaust, which can lead to an increase in performance. The core exhaust gases are hot, and as they cool behind the aircraft, the water in the exhaust can condense. Whether it does so and how long it takes before evaporating away again is essentially a function of the temperature and humidity of the ambient air. Generally, on a dry day when the sky is a deep blue, you tend not to see a contrail at all, or it may just be very short-lived. On a day with more moisture in the air, the sky appears a lighter blue, and there may well be high-level clouds around, like cirrus, cirrostratus, or cirrocumulus. In humid air, a contrail will take longer to evaporate. Take a hot drink outside, or drive a car on a hot, dry day, and you'll be lucky to see any vapour at all. Do the same thing on a cold and/or foggy day, and the vapour will be visible for much longer before evaporating. What happens to vapour from your drink or car exhaust applies to contrails too. Nobody starts pointing the finger at car manufacturers in winter and accusing them of a conspiracy to pump chemicals into the air because, look, longer-lasting exhaust vapour. Clouds are, by definition, airborne collections of water droplets or ice particles. So a contrail is just a cloud that, like all clouds, lasts as long as the ambient conditions allow. In the right conditions then, namely well-saturated air, the vapour of a contrail may remain visible for minutes or even hours, just like any cloud, spreading out as it is dispersed by air movements. If it does hang around though, a certain demographic gets very upset and claims it's a chemtrail sprayed by ne'er-do-wells. Here then we see typical behaviour of conspirators, making arbitrary, uninformed decisions about what constitutes normal behaviour based on no thought whatsoever. Reality is, after all, duty-bound to conform to their narrow, ignorant expectations. Unfortunately, reality seems to be unaware that it has this obligation. This caused concern in World War II when high-flying bombers were found to be leaving nice long trails in the sky, saying, "Cooey, Fritz, guess where I am and guess where I'm going." Indeed, according to this 1946 paper by Brewer, one bomber command raid on Nuremberg lost 93 aircraft, in no small part due to the whacking great vapour trails that made them plainly visible to the Germans. Brewer also documents a more benign example from the 4th of February 1944, in which Fortress aircraft circling while making formation made trails which eventually produced a continuous sheet of cirrus cloud at an unusually low level over most of southern England. Persistent contrails then are simply nothing new. Chemtrail conspiracy nuts are simply lying when they repeat their mantra that "this never used to happen," and those that are willing to blindly believe them are just exacerbating the problem of ignorance and perpetuating the lie. What is most amusing about chemtard footage is that you typically see, if the shot is wide enough, that the sky is a pale blue and often contains high cloud or obvious signs of naturally occurring haze. As we've seen, it's no surprise that contrails form in these conditions, or that they persist. If the natural vapour that's already there isn't disappearing according to the arbitrary time limits imposed by chemtards, why should water vapour produced by an engine? It shouldn't, and it doesn't. Having established that normal contrails and atmospheric moisture also satisfy the supposed benchmarks for identifying alleged chemtrails, there's really no need to look at any other chemtrail nonsense. Conspiracy nuts are nothing if not persistent in their delusions though, so let's see what else they have on offer. Get your caps lock ready. BBC admit to aerosol spraying chemtrail geoengineering. In this piece, one JamNoise72 is really angry because a mainstream media outlet has supposedly admitted that chemtrail spraying happens. Even if that were the case, there's just no pleasing some people, is there? They moan and whinge about a global conspiracy not making things public, how nobody will admit to whatever they think is going on, and then when they think it's public, they're still pissed off about it. Having opened her video by presenting this tired old canard,
the thing is, global warming, no such thing. You know, we've always had changes in weather, it's perfectly normal.
she then goes on to object to the fact that it isn't sunny on this particular day in June. Unsurprisingly, the reason it's not sunny today isn't because cloudy days happen naturally, or because
always had changes in weather, it's perfectly normal.
No, it's because of chemtrails. It's the only possible explanation for a cloudy day in June, the month which has been noted throughout human history for providing 30 days of constant sunshine, which of course is why Wimbledon now have so much egg on their face for putting a retractable roof on centre court. So why is our Cockney chemtard pissed off at the BBC?
And it was this picture here that totally, to be honest, pissed me off, right? So to all you people who think that those who are noticing the planes doing this is number 2, yeah? Atmospheric aerosols.
The article is a high-level overview of ways that geoengineering methods could have possible uses in mitigating climate change, and it discusses their merits at a correspondingly high level. Nowhere in the article does it state that any of these methods are being used now. Indeed, of aerosols it specifically states, stratospheric aerosols seem to offer the most effect for the least investment, and could be deployed soon, but present an unknown risk to the environment. Could be. Future tense. If you're a conspiracy nut, what this means is that they're being used now. English comprehension fail. Did anyone spot the rather obvious cherry picking? Yes, that's right. Even though the image illustrates 3 possible methods of reducing solar radiation and another 3 of reducing CO2 in the atmosphere, JamNoise has naturally homed in on only one of them, and isn't foaming at the mouth accusing random people of painting deserts white or of blocking her view of the stars with giant space reflectors. Presumably, if they were happening now, she wouldn't give a shit. But aerosols from aircraft? Cool, love a duck, Mary Poppins. I'm really pissed off, yeah?
That means they've got planes flying at a certain altitude lower than where a contrail would form, which is what we have all been saying, and these planes are spraying out chemicals.
And you got all of that from an illustration on a news article. Odd. The illustration doesn't provide any indication of altitude or composition.
So they've even got in the picture here, you know the haze that we see? Look at this. There's the haze.
No, that's a depiction of the atmosphere as a whole. The black bit is space. It's where the space reflectors would go, like the ones shown in the diagram. Wait, should we point out that this diagram isn't to scale? Does Jam Noise think that aircraft fly at the edge of space? That space reflectors will be little higher than aircraft? And if she's managed to conclude that these death sprays are taking place below where a contrail would form, she's not leaving much room for that to happen. Another possibility, of course, is that she hasn't got a damn clue what she's on about and is just wasting oxygen and producing incoherent babble as an unfortunate byproduct.
This is a chemtrail, this is aerosol spraying. For all of you who say that it's not happening, this is a picture of geoengineering. Alright, they say they're not doing this project, but they are, because we see them on a daily basis. There is no sun in the sky, so it's obviously all being reflected away by all this shit that they're putting into our sky.
Dare we ask what she thinks is being sprayed?
They're spraying all these metals into the air. And you know when people say they're finding metal in their water? When people say they're finding metal in their blood?
Could you be a bit less specific? Who are these unspecified people finding unspecified metals? How are they finding them? What evidence is there of cause and effect in each case? How have other possibilities been eliminated? Citation needed on all fronts.
And their kidneys and their livers are suffering.
Or perhaps these prawls are consuming excessive quantities of alcohol.
They need a certain element to make sure that it goes back up into the sky. So the stuff that they're spraying is going to be metal. It's got to be some sort of metallic substance for it to have the light shine back off it.
Why does it have to be metal? Because only metals are reflective, right?
Wrong.
Introducing Saturn's moon, Enceladus. It is the most reflective body in the solar system. 99% of the sunlight that hits it bounces right back into space. Is it covered in metal? No, its surface is covered in ice. Water ice. What reflects the most sunlight from Earth? Surprise, surprise, it's ice and clouds. So no, it doesn't have to be metals at all.
And if you check it, look how big the sky is. It's a lot of stuff they're having to spray.
Really? Okay, let's see the figures behind that, please.
So when you see that haze all over the sky and there's no blue, it's aerosol spraying and it's come out of the plane.
Introducing the hydrological cycle. Since we all covered this at school, I'm not going to explain it here. Jam Noise refers to herself as an independent researcher and public intelligence analyst. Lofty sounding stuff that doesn't match the material so far. So let's see if the quality on either front improves.
Are you missing the sun in England this May? We haven't had any at all.
False. This video was made in 2012. In May of that year, the UK had above average sunshine.
And they're telling you that 72% of the public have said it's okay to do this in the UK, the US and Canada.
False. This is a blatant misrepresentation of what the BBC's article, linked from her video description, actually says, particularly when you consider that the very first sentence provides information that she seems to have conveniently omitted. There is strong support for more research. Then there's paragraph 10. 72% approved of more research. So they didn't agree to geoengineering or to aerosol spraying as claimed. Anyone who was still confused in their analysis could check The Guardian's piece and find that 72% somewhat or strongly supported general research. But again, why let the facts get in the way of knee-jerk reactionary outrage? Within 4 sentences of the BBC's article, you can pick up every salient piece of information you need to ascertain that Jam Noise is talking bollocks. Since her audience haven't noticed this, we can take it that they're just too lazy to actually check the claims being made. Back to the article.
Did they ask you if they could do it?
They didn't have to, because it wasn't the ominous they asking for permission. It was a survey conducted clearly for the purposes of writing a paper on the subject. What is obvious from her fallacious question is that Jamnoise didn't even read as far as paragraph 3 of the BBC's article, and by paragraph 3 I also mean sentence number 3. That's the one where it says it was an internet survey commissioned by researchers. It appears again that, as with the earlier illustration that was hilariously taken to be proof that chemtrail spraying occurs now, Jamnoise's summary of the BBC's article on the work of Mercer, Keith and Sharp not only left out much salient content, but also completely misrepresented the one element that was cherry-picked from the second sentence. Rather than just make false claims about a news article, one might have expected a competent researcher and public intelligence analyst to actually read the original paper. But that was linked in sentence number 4, and as we've established, the research didn't get that far. The original study even tested the water of the lunatic fringe. One of the voices emerging in the SRM debate is that of chemtrails believers. This small group believes that organisations, such as governments, are already distributing chemicals in the atmosphere for a variety of purposes, ranging from culling the population, which clearly isn't working because stupid people breed like flies, to mind control. We found that 2.6% of the subjects believe that it is completely true that the government has a secret program that uses airplanes to put harmful chemicals into the air, and 14% of the sample believes that this is partly true. Distributions across the 3 countries do not vary substantially. So there we have it. 2.6% of the population are certifiable morons, and 14% need to up their standards of information acceptance, preferably by not getting their information second-hand from conspiracy nuts who can't present basic facts correctly, but do make stuff up and lie about the weather. Conspiracy nuts are never known for their truthfulness, though. The Dunning-Kruger effect is strong with this lot, so any attempt to explain reality for what it is instantly means you're either in on the conspiracy or somehow not as enlightened as someone who thinks that hydrocarbons should be able to combust without producing water. Many decent people have devoted time to engaging with chemtards to provide them with valid information. Are they interested? No, of course not. When a chemtard says, "I want to know the truth," all they really mean is, "I want someone to tell me my delusions are right, and nothing else will do." It's just about the most closed-minded, intellectually dishonest position you can hold, veiled in utterly disingenuous requests for information. When a chemtard says, "I want to raise awareness," what they really mean is, "I want other people to be as uninformed, willfully ignorant, and dishonest as I am." After all, how can you raise awareness of something that is based on the protagonist's ignorance of basic physics? The rest of the video unsurprisingly consists of more jumping to conclusions and making ridiculous correlations that are supposedly proof of a chemtrail conspiracy.
So we've gone from 19 people, right, to 127 people being admitted into hospital because they can't breathe, they've got respiratory problems, and I know this has got a lot to do with the shit that they're spraying.
People having breathing difficulties? Well, of course, the only possible explanation is chemtrails, particularly when the extent of your research and analysis extends to taking any premise and putting, therefore, chemtrails on the end of it. According to the world's chemtrailer trash, there's endless evidence for their bullshit on YouTube. By evidence, they mean something we're now already familiar with in this series, pointing at something you don't understand in the sky and declaring it to be what you think it is, because that's what you want it to be. Some, however, are not merely content to pontificate their failures in understanding the skies, or to make ridiculous accusations based on the feeblest of inputs. They have found a solution. When confronted with a global conspiracy, they have chosen to take their fight straight to the skies. Wait, that's a garden sprayer. Yes, here's one who thinks that by spraying vinegar into the air above her now dead lawn, she can make contrails 30,000 feet away disappear. Because, reasons.
And now I'm going to spray the vinegar and show you how the chemtrails will disappear. And then you got to wait a little while, and then they start to break up. The ones that we saw before are all breaking up, as you can see. You don't see any lines. And the ones that were over here are completely gone. So I got to spray some more. Look what they're doing. See? But over my yard where I sprayed, you can see it clearing up.
Here's another one who thinks he can make clouds and contrails disappear by waving around a bottle of open cider vinegar.
Hey, have some of this.
Typically what happens is they spray their vinegar and come back half an hour later to find that the sky has changed. As we've come to expect, these folk can't explain how vinegar sprayed down here affects water condensation levels up there. But apparently the acid is what does it, because, reasons. Vinegar is typically between 92 and 96% water, so these people are spraying water to evaporate water 30,000 feet away. And of course, spraying it roughly in the direction of the specific cloud you want to evaporate works, because water you're spraying magically goes where you want it to, because, reasons. Another amusing thing is that chemtards blame chemicals for all manner of ills, yet acetic acid is a corrosive and an irritant, with sustained exposure causing irritation to eyes, throat and mucous membranes. Conjunctivitis from concentrations below 10 parts per million have been reported. Only chemtards would be stupid enough to spray chemicals into the air that they are likely to breathe that could cause health issues along the lines of those some blame on chemtrails, whilst thinking they are affecting air many kilometres away. Also, since chemtards think that major chemical companies are part of the conspiracy to spray the population, along with all the pilots, aircraft manufacturers and ground crew, they'll be delighted to know that acetic acid used to be manufactured mainly using the Monsanto process, and is now mostly made using the Cativa process, licensed from BP. Yes, by buying vinegar, they're ultimately funding the very people they think are trying to slowly kill them off. You couldn't make it up. If people were really trying to kill them off, the most disappointing thing is that they're doing such a piss-poor job of it. If you've been wondering whether it would be a good idea to do something to manage the population of stupid and willfully ignorant people, check out the Chemtrailer trash. It's a world of batshit.
They're trying to tell me there is no knowledge of anything to do with aerosol spray. Because they've been doing it for years, right? They've been doing this for a while.
Some more.
I've seen strange frequency patterns in the stratospheric clouds, which I believe is the result of heart beam.